What if someone you've seen almost every day, someone you felt you truly knew, suddenly looked like a complete stranger? That's what fans are saying right now about Rachael Ray. The warm, bubbly face the world grew up with has shifted so dramatically that people are asking the same unsettling question. What happened to her? And before you see the truth, you might want to take a breath. Because the answer is far bigger, and far more shocking, than anyone expected. It all began with a simple Mother's Day video. Rachael Ray was in her kitchen, wearing glasses, telling a story about her early days in New York. How she survived on just $40 a week and was too embarrassed to tell her mom she was broke. Normally, fans love these personal moments. But this time, nobody was focused on the story. Instead, the comment section exploded with worry. Viewers said her voice sounded shaky, almost trembling at points. Others insisted her face looked different, like something was off. Some asked gently, "Are you okay?" While others said she looked nothing like the Rachael Ray they grew up watching. And this wasn't just one or two remarks. These concerns had been brewing for months. People pointed out older clips from late 2024 where she also seemed tired, quieter, even fragile. Fans weren't being cruel. They were confused. They wanted answers. They wanted reassurance. But Rachael didn't address a single comment. She didn't explain the changes, the tremors, or the quietness. The silence only made the mystery louder. And what happened next, just a few weeks later, made everything even stranger. Just a few weeks after that unsettling Mother's Day video, something happened that completely flipped the narrative. Rachael Ray made a very rare public appearance, the kind she hadn't done in almost a year. Cameras were waiting, fans were watching, and everyone braced themselves to see the same trembling woman from the video. But that's not what they saw. On the red carpet, Rachael Ray looked different. Not the unrecognizable version fans had been whispering about, but lively, smiling, almost glowing. Photographers caught her laughing, posing with her husband, and cradling rescue puppies like nothing was wrong at all. She looked energized, confident, present, and instantly, the conversation shifted. How could the fragile woman from the kitchen clip suddenly appear strong and vibrant on a red carpet? Was she hiding something? Was the earlier video filmed on a bad day? Or was she simply putting on a brave face for the cameras? The contradiction didn't calm people down. It made the mystery explode even more. Because if she was truly fine, why had she been away for so long? Why so few public appearances? And why did she look like two completely different people depending on the moment? To understand that contradiction, the online Rachael versus the public Rachael, you have to go back further than the Mother's Day video. You have to go back to the single night that changed her life forever. To understand what's really happening with Rachael Ray, you have to go back to one night, a night that broke the version of her the world thought it knew. It was August 9th, 2020. Rachael was at her home in Lake Luzerne, a quiet place she designed herself, deep in the woods, far away from cameras and chaos. It was supposed to be her sanctuary. But that night, something felt wrong. She later said she heard it before she saw anything, heard danger, a crackling in the walls, electricity hissing, a sound no one ever forgets. Within moments, the house was on fire. Not a small accident. A full, violent blaze. Rachael, her husband, her mother, and their dog ran out with nothing. No luggage. No keepsakes. Not even shoes. Just their lives. The flames swallowed everything else. Footage later showed the house engulfed, flames shooting through the roof like a horror film. Decades of memories gone in minutes. She didn't just lose furniture, she lost her notebooks, her recipes, her husband's music books, the kind of personal history you can't buy back. What hit hardest wasn't the big things. It was the small heartbreaks. She thought her beloved pizza oven survived. But days later, the remaining structure collapsed and crushed it too. It was a total loss. The house had to be bulldozed. Rachael tried to stay positive. She told fans she was grateful her family was safe. But behind that strength was trauma so deep it changed her forever. She later admitted something that explains everything. When disaster strikes your home, your life changes. Forever. This wasn't just a fire. It was a before and after moment. And it explains the new Rachael Ray, the quieter life, the distant public presence, the rare appearances, and the tremble you see in her voice. Because after surviving something like that, The person who walks out is never the same one who walked in. What happened after the fire wasn't random. It was part of a pattern Rachael Ray has lived through before. Long before she was a TV star with cookbooks, studios, and million-dollar deals, she was a young woman in New York City trying to survive. And the city wasn't kind to her. Back in the 1990s, Rachael was working normal jobs, the candy counter at Macy's, managing fresh foods, helping run a gourmet market. But outside of work, her life was terrifying. She was mugged outside her Queens apartment, slammed against a door, and held at gunpoint. She escaped only because she fought back with mace. Most people would move on, but her attacker didn't. Days later, the same man came back. He dragged her into a side alley and beat her so badly she thought she wouldn't make it. She survived only because her dog chased him away. That was her first breaking point. The first time she realized she had to flee in order to breathe again. She left New York City and rebuilt her life from scratch upstate. And that escape to rebuild decision accidentally launched her entire career. The classes she taught, the local segment she filmed, the cookbook she wrote, the network executives who discovered her. All of it started because she ran from trauma and reinvented herself. Decades later, when her Lake Luzerne home burned to the ground, the same instinct kicked in. Another life-changing trauma. Another escape. Another rebuild. Except this time, she didn't run back home. She crossed an ocean. She found a centuries-old stable in Tuscany, a building with no electricity, no plumbing, and no signs of modern life, and she brought it back piece by piece. She rebuilt the ceilings, carved out new floors, added a music hall for her husband, and even placed a full kitchen inside the bedroom, a decision that made sense only to someone who wanted control, comfort, and creativity wrapped tightly around her. People say Rachael Ray looks different now. And she does. But it's not just aging. It's not just stress. It's the face of someone who has rebuilt herself twice. From violence, and then from fire. Someone who learned that survival isn't just about escaping danger. It's about rebuilding your world in a way that feels safe again. And the next chapter of her life proves exactly that. After surviving 2 life-altering traumas, one in New York and another in her own home, Rachael Ray didn't just heal. She pivoted. And this pivot is the moment most people completely misunderstand. For 17 years, she was the queen of daytime TV. 5 days a week. Millions watching. A show built on energy, charm, and warmth. But by 2023, something in her had shifted. She wasn't running toward the spotlight anymore. She was running away from it, toward something quieter, something she could control. When her long-running show ended, fans thought she was retiring or stepping back. But that wasn't the truth at all. She wasn't quitting. She was upgrading. On the same day her talk show wrapped, Rachael announced something no one saw coming. Her own production company. Free Food Studios. Her new empire. Her new rules. No network executives hovering over her. No ratings battles. No sponsors dictating the content. No pressure to perform 5 days a week with a camera in her face. She wanted independence, and she built it. And networks noticed. A major partner signed on almost immediately, ordering well over 100 new episodes of her programming. Suddenly, Rachael wasn't just the host. She was the boss. The creator. The executive. The one calling every shot from lighting to recipe to location. This is how her new era was born. The Tuscany series filmed in her rebuilt villa, the refreshed meals in minutes format, and the most personal project of all, Rebuild, a show inspired directly by the fire that nearly broke her. People online said she disappeared. They said she looked tired, different, unwell. But the truth is much clearer. Rachael Ray didn't disappear. She evolved. She stepped away from a 17-year schedule that drained her. She built a studio to take back ownership of her life. And she created shows that reflected who she was after the fire, not before it. This wasn't the end of her career. It was the beginning of a new one she fully controlled. And the place she chose to build that new life is about to explain everything. When Rachael Ray walked away from daytime TV, she didn't retreat into silence. She retreated into Italy. Not the postcard version tourists see, but the raw, ancient, untouched corners most people never step into. That's where she decided to rebuild her life from the ground up. Literally. She didn't buy a perfect villa. She didn't look for comfort. She bought a centuries-old stable. A building with no water, no electricity, no plumbing, and no sign of modern life anywhere inside. Most people would look at it and see a ruin. Rachael looked at it and saw freedom. And she transformed it. Piece by piece. Brick by brick. Floors had to be dug out just to make the ceilings livable. Walls had to be rebuilt from scratch. She carved out a music hall for her husband. She designed rooms around sunlight and silence. And in a move that felt very Rachael Ray, she even installed a fully functional kitchen inside the bedroom, not for aesthetics, but because it felt right to her. Because in this life, she didn't need approval. She needed peace. This wasn't a getaway. It wasn't a vacation home. It became the headquarters of her new creative empire. From that rebuilt stable, she films Rachael Ray in Tuscany, her new series that blends local food, slow living, and the comfort of a fresh start. The show feels different from her old ones. Calmer, more grounded, almost like you're watching a woman who finally exhaled after years of holding her breath. And that's exactly what it is. Italy gave her the quiet she lost after the fire. It gave her control when her life felt unpredictable. It gave her space to create shows on her own terms, at her own pace, without the pressure of a daily broadcast schedule. People wondered why she disappeared. They wondered why she only surfaced at rare events. They wondered why she seemed different, softer, slower. But in Italy, Rachael Ray wasn't disappearing. She was rebuilding, a home, a studio, a new version of herself. And not everyone was happy about her success. Because as her new empire grew, old rivalries and old battles came roaring back. Rachael Ray's new era in Italy didn't mean her old problems vanished. In fact, the more her new empire grew, the more the ghosts of her past came back to challenge her. Because in the world of celebrity cooking and lifestyle TV, success doesn't stay quiet. It creates enemies, and some of hers were loud. One of the earliest and most surprising clashes came from the last person anyone expected, Martha Stewart, the queen of perfection, the original domestic icon, and someone who clearly wasn't thrilled about Rachael's rise. In interviews, Martha didn't just criticize her, she dismissed her. She said Rachael was more of an entertainer than a cook, and that she couldn't bake. She implied Rachael's cookbooks weren't original and shrugged off her entire brand like it was a fluke. For years, fans believed it was a one-sided feud, until something slipped out that changed the narrative completely. A report revealed that 4 employees linked to Martha's camp were kicked out of a taping of Rachael's show after allegedly lying about who they were. People called them spies. Whether that's true or exaggerated, it showed one thing clearly. Rachael Ray was officially competition. And while that drama brewed in the background, another storm hit: lawsuits. Her massive dog food brand, Nutrish, became the target of multiple allegations. Claims of unwanted chemicals, accusations about ingredients, and even bizarre rumors about DNA contamination. Most of the claims fizzled out or went nowhere, but the headlines still hit hard. The internet doesn't read legal documents. It reads shock value. And through all of this, Rachael stayed calm. No meltdowns. No public outbursts. No messy statements. She kept doing what she always did. She worked. Quietly and relentlessly. Because Rachael Ray has been fighting her whole life. Fighting attackers. Fighting fires. Fighting critics. Fighting lawsuits. Fighting the pressure of an industry that constantly tries to break people. But even with all of that, nothing hit her reputation harder than what came next. Something she didn't do. She didn't explain why she looked different. She didn't address health rumors. She didn't respond to worried fans. And that silence only made people talk more. The next section dives into the speculation, the whispers, the viral theories, and the rumors that spread every time she uploaded a video. As Rachael Ray's new life in Italy unfolded, a different kind of story was growing online. One she never commented on, and one fans couldn't stop talking about. It started quietly, with a few YouTube comments and TikTok reactions. But soon, it became the biggest question tied to her name. People said she looked different. Her face, her voice, her expressions. Everything felt off. Clips from late 2024 and early 2025 kept resurfacing, and viewers pointed out things they claimed seemed unusual. Some mentioned slurred speech. Others noticed her mouth looking slightly uneven. At one point, people speculated she might have had a medical emergency she wasn't talking about. But here's the part that fueled everything. Rachael refused to address any of it. She didn't deny anything. She didn't confirm anything. She didn't explain the tremble in her voice or the tiredness in her recent videos. So the internet did what the internet always does when a celebrity goes quiet. It filled the silence with stories. Rumors suggested she might be dealing with exhaustion or stress. Others claimed she was recovering from something serious. A few pushed darker theories, the kind that spread fast because they're dramatic, not because they're true. None of it was confirmed. None of it came from Rachael. Almost all of it was pure speculation. In fact, the only time she ever hinted at any physical struggle was when she mentioned having a couple of bad falls in the past. Nothing more. No detail. No timeline. No explanation. And that vague comment only added more fuel to the rumor mill. But here's the strange part. When she stepped onto the red carpet in June 2025 looking happy, energized, and glowing, the confusion only deepened. People couldn't reconcile the Rachael in soft-lit kitchen videos with the Rachael smiling for photographers. Was she having good days and bad days? Was she simply worn down in private but strong in public? Or was the internet reading too deeply into moments that weren't meant to be analyzed? We don't know. And she's not telling. And that silence, that refusal to explain anything, is what turned simple concern into a full-blown mystery. But the truth behind her transformation has less to do with a secret illness, and more to do with something far more powerful. Something she never hid. Something she even talked about openly. Something that finally gave her the freedom to stop explaining anything to anyone. While the internet obsessed over her appearance, the real story wasn't happening on TikTok or in her comment section. It was happening behind the scenes, in meetings, contracts, and decisions that would completely redefine her career. Because Rachael Ray didn't just step back from the spotlight. She stepped up in a way most people missed entirely. When her daytime show ended after 17 seasons, people assumed it was burnout, fading ratings, or health concerns. But the truth was much bigger. Rachael Ray was done playing by other people's rules. Her official statement said she wanted a platform unencumbered by the traditional rules of distribution. Translation: she wanted freedom. Real freedom. The kind you can't get when a network owns your airtime, your schedule, your product placement, your sponsors, or your voice. So she made a move almost no daytime host ever makes. She built her own studio, her own production company, her own empire. Free Food Studios wasn't just a business. It was a declaration. Rachael didn't want to be talent anymore. She wanted to be the person who greenlit shows. The one who chose the crew. The one who decided what stories got told and how they were filmed. The one with final cut. And she got exactly that. Within months, a major network signed a massive deal with her brand. More than 100 new episodes across multiple series. Suddenly, Rachael wasn't a host signing contracts. She was the one writing them. This wasn't a retreat from fame. This was a power move. The silence the internet mistook as "something's wrong" was actually a woman doing something incredibly rare in entertainment. Reclaiming her time, her voice, and her work. And yes, the money mattered. Her estimated net worth, built over decades of cookbooks, cookware lines, shows, and her pet food empire, gave her the financial force to walk away from traditional television without fear. She didn't need a network to validate her. She didn't need ratings to survive. For the first time in her career, Rachael Ray wasn't answering to anyone. And that control, that independence, explains the biggest twist of all. She didn't disappear from Hollywood. She outgrew it. The next part reveals how she turned that freedom into something deeply personal. A new mission shaped directly by the fire that nearly destroyed her life. With her new studio, her new freedom, and her new life in Italy, Rachael Ray could have easily chosen a calm, quiet existence. She could have filmed simple cooking shows, enjoyed her rebuilt villa, and let the world fade out of focus. But she didn't. Instead, she created a show that stunned even her biggest fans, a project that made everything she'd been through suddenly make sense. It was called Rebuild. At first glance, it looked like another lifestyle series. Home makeovers, comforting meals, heartfelt stories. But the reality was much heavier. Each episode follows families who lost everything. to fires, floods, storms, and disasters that ripped their lives apart the same way the 2020 blaze tore through hers. And this wasn't scripted sympathy or emotional acting. It was personal. Rachael wasn't just hosting the show. She was reliving her own worst night. She walked into burned homes and recognized the smell. She listened to families describe what they lost, and she knew the weight of those words. She saw the debris, the ashes, the silence, and she understood exactly what that silence feels like. Most celebrities turn away from the moments that break them. Rachael turned hers into a mission. She used her platform, her resources, and her studio to help people rebuild the parts of their lives no insurance check can fully replace. And yet, this powerful new chapter sparked a complicated reaction online. Some viewers said it was inspiring, a woman taking her trauma and transforming it into real, tangible help. Others whispered the opposite, that she was monetizing tragedy, turning pain into content. But whether people saw it as healing or as strategy, one thing became undeniable. This show was the clearest window into who Rachael Ray had become. Not the cheerful Food Network star from the 2000s. Not the daytime host juggling hundreds of episodes a year. Not the viral mystery on social media. But a survivor. A woman who lived through the fire, rebuilt her world twice, walked away from the pressure of television, created her own studio, and used that power to help others claw their way out of their own ruins. And this mission revealed one final truth. One that explains the online videos, the quiet voice, the rare appearances, and the new version of her the world is still trying to understand. Even with her new empire, her new mission, and a life rebuilt from the ashes, one thing about Rachael Ray still unsettles people. The silence. Fans are used to celebrities explaining everything. Their health, their emotions, their breakups, their disappearances. But Rachael doesn't. She never has. And that silence creates shadows. Her public appearances are rare and carefully chosen. Her social videos feel raw, unfiltered, almost uncomfortably honest. One day she looks vibrant and glowing. The next she seems exhausted and distant. It's not inconsistency. It's humanity. But the internet isn't built to understand that. Online, every facial fluctuation becomes a theory. Every quiet moment becomes a clue. Every tremble becomes a headline. People forget that she lived through traumas that don't show up in medical charts. They show up in your posture, your voice, your eyes, years later. And the truth is, Rachael no longer feels obligated to reassure anyone. She doesn't owe explanations. She doesn't chase validation. She doesn't correct rumors or calm speculation. Why? Because for the first time in her career, she's not performing for approval. She's living for peace. She has a home she rebuilt with her own hands. A studio she built from scratch. A mission that comes from the deepest part of her life story. A team she controls. And a lifestyle she chose. Not one a network dictated. That freedom comes with a price. Distance. And that distance leads to questions she'll likely never answer. Is she okay? Is she tired? Is she healing from something the world doesn't know about? Or is this just what it looks like when someone finally stops pretending for the camera? The only real truth is this. People aren't reacting to how Rachael Ray looks. They're reacting to the fact that she has changed. And most people aren't used to seeing a celebrity change without an explanation attached. And if her story proves anything, it's that the version of Rachael Ray the world grew up with isn't the version she is today. And that might be the most powerful part of her transformation. So when you look at Rachael Ray today, you're not seeing a woman who fell off, or a celebrity hiding some dark secret. You're seeing someone who survived more than most people ever talk about. Someone who walked through fear, violence, loss, and fire, and still chose to rebuild her life from the ground up. You're seeing a person who stepped away from a 17-year television grind because she no longer needed the applause. Someone who traded studio lights for a quiet Italian sunrise. Someone who swapped network demands for creative freedom. Someone who decided her peace mattered more than her public image. And yes, she looks different now. She moves differently. She speaks differently. But maybe that's what happens when you stop performing for the world and start living for yourself. Rachael Ray didn't vanish. She evolved. She rebuilt. She reclaimed her life in a way that most people never get the chance to. Whether you see a mystery or a survivor depends entirely on how you choose to look at her. But one thing is certain. She didn't just rise from the ashes. She built an entirely new empire on top of them. Now tell me, what part of Rachael Ray's story shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments, and I'll dive into another celebrity transformation next.